Hello, welcome to the Coffee People podcast. Just wanted to let you know that if you go to roastery.com and you use the code bundled up, you'll get 10% off for the rest of March because it's freaking cold out. And here in Southern California, it's wet and cold. So code bundled up, 10% off, roastery.com. Can't go wrong. Hey everyone, thanks for showing up for another episode of the Coffee People podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Woldt. Before we get started, if you're interested in the video versions of this podcast, please head to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. It would really help us out. There are a bunch of video features that we can access once our subscriber number gets up over 500. And since it's a new account, it's not quite there yet. The link is in the bio. Thank you for the support. And now, on to the show.
I'd be drinking coffee too, but I'm past my daily limit already.
My daily, I usually cut out coffee around noon, and
I'm the same.
this is a noon, but it's cold out, as you can see. I'm like, got my sweater on, got my hat on.
Yeah.
You know, Southern California, we can't handle the brutal winter.
I think it's negative. It says negative 14 C, whatever that is in Fahrenheit. I'm in Castle Rock, Colorado.
Well, we'll get into that. Let me jump into this little read in here where I say hello to everybody. Welcome to the Coffee People podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Woldt. The show is presented by our friends at Roastery Coffee Packaging based out of Wausau, Wisconsin. You can find them online at roastery.com. The Coffee People podcast is part of our Roast West Coast network. You can go to roastwestcoast.com to find recaps of this show, our Coffee Smarter podcast, all the other coffee stuff that we're putting out. And if you haven't poured yourself a cup of coffee on a cold day, now is the time. We're about to get started. Our guest today is Fabian Ferrada. Did I pronounce that right? I forgot to ask.
Yes. Yeah, perfect. Absolutely. Perfect.
You can find him and his coffee company, Apis Coffee, online at apiscoffee.com. And of course, we're going to have links to that and their social media and all the fun stuff in our show notes and in our newsletter. Fabian, welcome to the Coffee People podcast.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello to everyone.
Everyone is saying hello back, I'm sure, wherever they're sitting and enjoying their coffee today. We were connected by Nick Schmidt at Roastery Coffee Packaging, who I literally just talked to like an hour ago. And he said, you gotta talk to Fabian and learn more about him. I did a very brief cursory overview. I'm not familiar with Apis. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Castle Rock just to get started? And then maybe we'll wrap around to how you got there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm based out of Castle Rock, Colorado, born and raised here in Colorado, but spent a lot of time traveling for just personal and work-related items. So with Apis, my goal was to provide single origin specialty roasted coffee to the local people here. We have some roasters that are north of me in Denver and then some in Colorado Springs, but there's a big gap there. I was going and driving an hour to go get coffee, and my wife said, you need to maybe look at roasting. And me being me, I said, all right, I'm going to go look at it. And then I got a commercial roaster from Mill City, which is number one. And here we are.
Well, you being you, who are you? Do you have a first memory of how you got started in being interested in coffee as something more than just it's something I do in the morning and I move on with my day?
Yeah, so my family's from Chile. I'm first generation here in the States. Coffee is a big part of the culture there, but it's more social than anything else. So my earliest memory is when I was, I think, 5 or 6. Growing up, my mom always having a cup of coffee in the afternoon. So in Chile, they have onces, is what it's called. It's like a tea time, but that's where you have an opportunity to have just an afternoon snack, a little coffee. And that's my earliest memory.
Where in Chile is your family from?
So on my mom's side, they're from Santiago, Valparaíso. And then on my dad's side, they're all from Santiago as well. So,
do you ever get a chance to head down there?
Yeah. It's been a while. There was a lot of time in my youth that I spent down there. I grew up playing soccer. So my first kind of long stint there was right after high school. I moved down to Chile to play soccer semi-professionally for
cool.
Big club team there called La Universidad de Chile. So I spent 2 years there, and then after that I came back, got my degree, then went back to try to start a business that didn't work out and came back. And then from there, I got hired on by a company based out of Durango, Colorado. I went to school in Durango as well. And then from there, they were hiring for an international position that I was able to step into. So lots of different interactions with Chile back and forth.
Durango, there's the Colorado Trail leaves out of Durango.
Absolutely.
And if you want if you're somebody who likes to ride a bike or hike or get outside, a great place to visit. Also a great place to like remind yourself that there are people out there who do like the entire trail.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I know for myself after like an hour, I was like, oh my God, like at elevation, like this is
Yep.
intense coming from zero sea level. I think that's you mentioned your was it your mom or your grandmother drinking in the afternoon?
Yeah, yeah, my mom primarily, my grandmother too. She came to the United States after my grandpa died, and then it was always a family thing. You know, me, my brother, my mom, and my grandma. They were always drinking a little bit of coffee in the afternoon and having a little snack. So,
First of all, good on them for drinking coffee in the afternoon. I feel like that's a grandmother thing. I feel like grandmothers, especially from a certain generation, could have a coffee and a cigarette at any time, and it was just
yeah,
sort of how they stayed fueled to manage with chaos below. Um, so you mentioned you had another career. You work in, I believe, software engineering or software
yeah,
in some
yes.
capacity. You have this hobby. You're passionate. You're getting passionate about coffee. You're driving to taste it, and you said you bought a roaster. How did you find the roaster? What made you decide to do it? And at that point, were you thinking further down the road that maybe I'm going to sell this or subsidize this thing that I'm getting into?
Yeah, so for me specifically, before I really got into coffee to the extent that I am now, I made a trip to Australia. At the time, I was working in the
Mm.
Middle East, and I met my wife there on one of my rotations. So I was traveling like 80% of the time, and then that 20%, I'd either come back to the States or meet my wife somewhere. So on this occasion, we met in Australia. We met with my really good friend Pedro. He's a coffee consultant down there, a master barista, roaster, all the fun things. And we didn't have any clue. We met him in Chile. He was just a good friend. And when we went to visit him, he introduced us to the specialty coffee world that's part of the culture in Melbourne. So that was the initial kind of touch point for me.
Hmm.
And then from there, when I came back from that trip, I got kind of obsessed with brewing and specifically espresso based drinks. So I leaned on him heavily at the beginning there, and then from there had my journey through brewing. And then it was about a year ago now. My wife was, I was always complaining like, man, I got to drive, I got to do this, and I'm getting coffee, and it's good, and it's this, and blah blah blah. And then she said, you just need to stop complaining and start roasting yourself. And I was like, you're right, I should.
That's like me asking my wife, "How would you feel if I went and travel with my cousin?" Like as I'm buying the plane tickets, waiting for her to say yes or
Yeah,
no. Uh,
yeah.
how did you find Mill City? Why did you choose a Mill City roaster for your first foray into that world? I mean, that's kind of a big step right away.
Yeah, I looked at all the various types of roasters, the smaller units, just thinking of doing something for myself. My background currently is I'm a solutions engineer for a software company, so I'm a subject matter expert in specific products and I demo those.
Hmm.
But prior to my time with this company that I'm currently with, I was a senior project manager, and that was kind of all the traveling that I used to do. So I would manage budgets, multi-million dollar projects, and I kind of got a skill set that allowed me to think a little bit beyond just roasting for myself. So I figured if I was going to make the investment, I might as well see if I can't turn it into a business. I crunched a lot of numbers, did a lot of research into the market, and then from there I said, I think I can do this. And if anything, it'll be a really expensive hobby, and I'll have great coffee to show for it. My wife actually was helping me with the investigation, and she actually brought Mill City to me and said, "Hey, this is kind of everything you're looking for. American based company. They have support here. They're on our hours, and they have an educational platform with their Roasting 101 class. And just the amount of content that they put out as well is always appreciated from someone that's always looking to learn as well. So." That was
Sure.
kind of
Our
the
friend
origin
over at
story.
Mill City, Bryant Banker Scannell, we made this coffee
Yeah.
with him right behind me. One of their education team members. I learn
Yep.
things from him every time I talk to him, and I don't even want to.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. He's
you,
great.
you start roasting.
hmm
About when? Where in the timeline are we? You said about a year ago.
Yeah, so December I did the Roasting 101 class. It was probably May of last year. So 2024 is when I started doing the kind of research and getting into it, or looking at it from a business perspective. And at that point, I said, I think I have something here. There's something that I can do organically grow. It's not my primary source of income, but it's something I'm very, very passionate about.
Hmm.
And from there, the idea was, if I could turn this into something, get into farmers markets, service the local community, that would be an ideal place for me to start. So,
The idea that you're filling a need in a smaller community that doesn't have as many options as, say, a Denver or a Colorado Springs. Colorado generally being a great coffee state, at least
Mhm.
I'd say the western half for sure. How long from starting to roast to the day where you're going to yourself, not only are these roasts coming out the way that I want them, but I think other people will like them, and it's worth me not driving to that place I know is going to be great every time.
Mhm.
How long did it take to build a little confidence in that to say this is worth sharing?
Yeah, I went into it knowing that I wanted to turn it into a business up front, and I was going to have a learning curve. And I
Hmm.
did a lot of research ahead of time. And when I looked at the Roasting 101 course, I actually took the course before I got the machine to make sure that I was going to be confident that I could go into it hitting the ground running because I'm kind of isolated out here. I don't have any mentors, people that are doing something similar to me. So I knew I'd have to go get that knowledge elsewhere. So when I looked at the course, I'd called, sent lots of emails, talked to the education team. They were absolutely amazing, super friendly, and just the amount of support up front, during, and then after me getting the roaster has been phenomenal. So I felt really comfortable to pull the trigger, get the roaster after I did the course. uh, I received that kind of the beginning of January. And then from there, I had some issues getting it installed because I'm roasting out of my house. So right now I'm operating under cottage law in Colorado. And I had to get some venting and stuff like that squared away since I was going to be doing something, quote unquote commercial. So I'm operating under cottage law, but it's a commercial machine, and I try to follow all the best practices that I learned during the Roasting 101 class. Then to answer the second part of your question, probably about a month and a half. I started doing sample roasts. I bought some green beans. I did the seasoning. And, I don't typically get too nervous, but the first time I was standing in front of the machine, my heart was just beating. And I was like, oh my God, this is real. This is going to happen. And it was great. I had something that was tasty. I had given it to all my friends and some family members, and I got a lot of great feedback. But I knew I could do better. So right now I'm on roast 167, something like that, 167 batches that I've ran through the equipment. And I'm much more comfortable now, but it was probably a good, 10 or 15 roasts before I felt like I knew enough and I could take what I learned from the Roasting 101 class and be comfortable making the adjustments to, airflow, my gas, understanding the different phases, and trying to highlight and modulate the flavor profile as well.
Beyond actually roasting this coffee, you came up with a brand. You came up with a name.
Yeah.
Where did Apis come from as your name? And you have this honeybee imagery that I like a lot. How does that incorporate into the whole vibe of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I really enjoy the idea of the honeybee. That's always been something that's kind of stuck with me since I was little. But my wife is a part-time beekeeper, so we actually have had hives in the past, and we're part of a network here local to the southwest corner of Colorado for a beekeeping association. So we went to a couple courses there, and part of the um, kind of persona that I wanted to take on as a business owner was community. That's really important to me. And then leveraging local artists and bringing them into the fold. So it's not just roasting, but more of like a platform where the idea is eventually to have a physical location, but starting with something small and then thinking about the brand of how I can grow into that brand. So Apis is the genus name for the honeybee, and ideally in the future, I have a few drinks that I make at home that are honey based. So I have uh, an iced cappuccino that's honey based. So the idea was to build and make our own syrups around different flavors of honey. So we can contact and bring in the local network of beekeepers that we know for the flavoring, and then also pairing honey with coffee is something that we've kind of gotten into. But then also, again, the imagery, the hive, that was something that stuck with me and resonated. And Apis just sounds cool as well. So I
uh,
took all that and built a brand around it. So
you just mentioned the idea of a future tasting space or cafe or some sort of retail location.
yeah.
As you're looking at the marketplace now, even if that's a ways down the road,
Hmm.
uh, do you see this being a coffee shop? I mean, do you see it being a kind of honey coffee experience? Because it sounds like you can see a spider webbing. Oop, sorry, microphone. You can see a spider webbing, of the concept as you're growing
Yeah.
with the theme, and you could easily drop coffee and have Apis be, the focus and have this
Hmm.
expansive brand line, right?
Correct.
What
Yeah.
is your vision for that for the future, and do you think it'll fit into the location that you're in? I mean, there had to have been a reason why there wasn't a lot of other coffee shops in your area before you kind of jumped, or roasters rather, before you jumped into this.
Yeah, so there's a few in Castle Rock, but they primarily focus on kind of darker roasts, medium dark roasts. That's kind of the preferred roasting profile that I've found around Castle Rock. They they don't really focus on the niche kind of specialty coffee. They have some offerings, but the majority of them are typically darker roasts. So there's a lot of people at the cafes here locally. There's three that I can think of that are which kind of fit that not cookie cutter like a Starbucks or something like that, where you just go drive through and you get your coffee and you're on your way. Um, so that in particular was something that I thought about where I want to start small and grow organically. So operate under cottage laws, get the brand, the bags, get a presence online, get all that figured out, build a client base off of that, and then from there move into a commercial space to then start looking for wholesale accounts and trying to get into the local grocery stores here locally and or stores. There's a local. It's actually called the local. It's like a shop in the surrounding areas of where I'm at, try to get in there. And then from there, if I have that commercial space, then have a little kind of coffee bar up front as well. But I didn't want to necessarily rely on retail selling cups per se to be able to kind of maintain the business. So that was forward thinking. And then from there is, again, creating a space where people can come enjoy coffee. And again, sticking with the kind of imagery and the idea of the honeybee colony is it's community. Everyone has a job. It's a good place for everyone to come back to, and then from there you're supporting each other.
Well, speaking as jobs, what you're describing is a fairly big expansion. I mean, is
Yeah,
this is this like an announcement to your boss right now? Hey, like 5 years from now, you're gonna have to replace. Not to put you on the spot too
yeah,
much,
yeah.
but like, how do you find balance? I guess is really the question between this hobby turned job business, your career, which is enabling you to continue down this path, and I assume
Yeah,
you enjoy. You've been in it for some time, and
yeah,
then also your family and the other hobbies you might have together.
yeah. No, I look at coffee primarily as something that I'm very passionate about. Ideally, I could see this growing into a physical location, but it's not something that I have a plan to like try to execute in the next 2 to 3 years. It's something that if it grows organically, that'd be great. I wanted to take the approach of working and being professional so that even though I am operating out of my house, that you're dealing with a professional company, even though I kind of do everything, minus the books. My wife helps me with that. So, and from there, the idea is to be able to, go to the farmers markets, have a little coffee cart there, just kind of do weekend events, supplement my income that way. But right now, I'm happy with where I'm at, what I'm doing. I have a very good work-life balance. I have two little kids that take up a lot of my time as well. So my main focus was to be able to have something that wasn't going to take all of my attention. And in reality, I only primarily roast once a week on the weekends and the evenings when my kids are asleep after we've done all our activities. So my primary roasting days are on Saturdays and Sundays in the evenings.
A year into this, as you're learning on a regular basis, I assume,
Mhm.
what's needed to make this successful, or how to continue improving your skill set. Roastars asked me to gather information to pass along to their consumers. There are other roasters in your position, maybe
Mm.
a year behind you. Is there any advice or any lessons that you've learned along the way so far that you could pass along so that we could, spread that education open source style?
Yeah, absolutely. So I I would focus primarily on making sure that you understand the laws in your state. I am in Colorado, and we have a very uh, good cottage law where coffee roasting falls under that. So there's specific limitations around that. There's requirements in terms of having specific information on the bag, making sure that the consumer is informed. So you'll see that on my webpage. I try to be as transparent as possible there. And then I'm compliant with, actually, I have my coffee bag here. On the back side of it, I have all the verbiage that's required by law. They require me to have my contact information, my home address as well. So all of that's on the bag. And shout out to Roastar as well. I worked with them to get the bag there. So definitely make sure you understand cottage law if you're going to operate there and start there. The second would be understanding the financial component. Like I said, I have a background in finance. Business administration was my degree out of college, and then I was managing profit and loss statements, so P&Ls, big jobs. So having a very good understanding of kind of your cost of goods sold, what goes into that, and then understanding that at the end of the day, it is a business. So I have a margin that I have to operate under to be able to continue to buy coffee, keep reinvesting into the web page, building the brand, paying outside consultants if need be to bring them in to help me with anything that I'm deficient in. So that kind of be the first thing if you're looking at it is make sure that you can have some type of financial model that would reflect revenue coming in and having a good understanding of what your costs are.
Man, I
Um,
knew I did something wrong. That was it. Should have
yeah,
thought
yeah,
about the money up front. Oh my goodness.
yeah. And
Uh, Go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, that's kind of the big primary thing if you want to look at it as a business. I made a big investment, right? So I got a 1 kilogram machine, buying that, the shipping, getting it installed, all that fun stuff. Um, I've not made of money, so I have to try to justify that, especially to my wife. She's a wealth management advisor, and she was like, "Are you sure? What's the ROI?" I was like dealing with like an investor almost, but it all came from a place of love. So it's like if we're gonna do this, let's make sure that we do it right. And at the end of the day, you gotta might make sure that you can stay afloat.
I mean, realistically, she and your kids are investors in your
Yeah, they are.
company. I mean, it's not just the money, but it's the time that you're going to spend doing it. It's the time away or the time together. Your
Yeah,
hobby becomes a group hobby. Her
correct.
beekeeping becomes the group thing.
Yeah,
It's part of being a team. And it's such an important component of starting a business, I think, for a lot of, I would say, if you're a small business starting I don't want to call it a hustle, but like something in addition to your career that could
right.
grow, and you're part of a unit, it's going to impact them whether more than you realize.
Oh
Your
yeah,
stress becomes theirs. And so you got to take that into account when you're making your plans.
yeah.
What's the next step for you guys? Where does the future, let's say the immediate 2025 future for Apis look like and beyond? You already kind of described the 5-year plan.
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, year one was getting comfortable with the roaster, building the brand, getting a online presence. That was year one, and I've accomplished all of that to various degrees. The 2025 is to now get into a farmers markets. So I'm actually looking at local farmers markets here in Parker, Colorado, which is just north of me, like 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And then in Castle Rock, where I live, it's about 15 minutes where they have the farmers market to my house. So right now I'm looking at the application process there. I ordered, like I said, a lot of bags from Roastar, and I have a good source of beans coming in from La Bodega, so I'm working with them, and so I have all that kind of upfront squared away, and then just going to farmers markets every other week. So that's part of the balance. Is I didn't want to do every weekend, and then with my current customers that I have, I've kind of noticed they're about every 3 weeks they're buying a bag. So I figured I could do every other week at a farmer's market here local, and then I could use the other weekends that I'm not doing something to make sure that I'm spending time with my kids and my family and doing cool things with them. So
When you started the retail, the online retail in particular, and I'm asking this selfishly because I've kind of been thinking about this a lot. Did you expect a certain amount of sales right away, and did that happen? Or did you find that what you mentioned the customers you have every 3 weeks or so, did your customers kind of become regular customers quickly, or do you have to kind of keep reminding them? I've always been surprised at the kind of continual drip of pushing you have to do to be successful in retail.
yeah, yeah. So I'm lucky to the extent of so I do jujitsu as well. I have a great community behind me. I train at a place called Go Squad in Castle Rock,
Mhm.
and my friends there support my business. So I let them know. I said if you're interested, please reach out. So primarily, majority of my sales have all been kind of one-on-one with these interactions. And while that was going on, I had some friends that bought once or twice, and then I've had other friends that they said I'm not buying coffee anywhere else. What you're doing is fantastic, and I want to support you. So with that, I had that kind of experience, like you said. I could probably reach out to my other friends, hey, if you're interested, I got new coffee, but I wanted to primarily focus on just making sure that I had a really good product and that I was comfortable with my process. And then the expectation for the webpage specifically was to have an online presence to think again future for all of Colorado when I can then try to build a brand, build a following through the farmers markets, get those Google reviews on the web page. Right now, I think I'm at about 18 uh, reviews. They've all been positive, and to grow that, and then from there start pushing marketing to be able to drive them to the web page. So very targeted stuff through Facebook, Instagram, all the social platforms. Since I'm a one man band, and I gotta make sure that I'm spending my money wisely. So they that was the initial idea, was to have the best presentation from a web page perspective so that people could go. It was intuitive, it was educational, it was friendly and easy to use. And from there, make sure that that's the primary focus of, like, if someone now asks me, hey, I want to buy coffee, how do we do this? I just even point my friends now to the web page and I say, hey, if you find something, let me know. We can talk about that more, but I have everything up to date on my web page. And if you're interested on kind of different brew methodologies, I have a blog post about that as well. And a big part of what I realized as I was going through this was a lot of my friends aren't big coffee nerds like me. So there was a lot of similar conversations that were being had. And I said, I'll just do a little blog post here to just at least orient them in a direction of the different brew methods that you can have, not having to go spend, hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on an espresso machine, that you could have an amazing experience with a cup of coffee through a pour over and a decent grinder. And from there, it's highlighting the quality of the bean and kind of what I'm trying to do from a roasting perspective.
Yeah, coffee can meet you or whomever wherever they are. It doesn't have to be the fanciest. It doesn't have to be the worst. It can be somewhere in between. Something I
Absolutely.
like to do near the end of a show is just ask our guests if they have any sort of charitable or nonprofit efforts that they support, or they just want to spread the word about. Yes, no, others. All any answers are welcome. But if there's something important to you, now is a chance to kind of just let other people know about it, or know how they can get involved.
Yeah, I'd say right now I request or say make sure that you support local business. Try to find the individuals in your community to help support. Like I had mentioned, the beekeeping stuff that came up through my wife being a beekeeper. We try to support and buy local honey from those individuals. I have friends that are potters as well. So again, big master plan is one day having a space where I can sell their art in a shop or even online. So provide them with a platform for that. We do everything we can to support the farmers markets, the local individuals there as well. So that was just a real natural fit for me. So I'd say if you can shop local. Those are kind of the big important items for me. Outside of the charitable organizations and stuff like that, it's making sure that we are kind to each other. I feel like that gets lost, especially nowadays. There seems to be a big divide amongst individuals, and I feel like we have more in
What?
common. No, never. I feel like we have more in common than we do in terms of differences. So that's always what I'm looking for, is to see where I can be of service to an individual, and if that means supporting their business to do that.
Yeah, I think that's an important distinction. I say charitable or nonprofit because it's an easy way to broach that subject. But that doesn't mean necessarily I'm trying to get a tax deduction. It just means where's a place I can put my money that is going to help somebody else, or my
Absolutely.
time or my effort if it's volunteering and not financial in that manner. Anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to make sure people knew or that we shared about Apis Coffee, about
Oh
you?
man, yeah. I guess the one thing that I'd probably highlight is, I'm just a normal person. I have some specific kind of ideas in place, and I wanted to use something that I was passionate about in coffee to be able to connect with my community. And I would just encourage people, like, if you have that sensation that there's something you want to do, whether it's coffee related or not, be bold, go out, do it, learn. You don't get an opportunity to learn if you're not uncomfortable in your current situation. So I always try to promote that, and I always try to at least help individuals if it's something that I could say during this podcast, or a conversation around coffee or something else that I'm passionate about doing. Just be confident in yourself and take that step forward.
When you were driving for a cup of coffee somewhere and you weren't drinking your own stuff and you stopped into a cafe, what are you
Mm.
going to order?
Oh man, I'm a sucker for a good cappuccino. Yeah, I love cappuccinos or a pour over. I typically like to start with just a basic shot of espresso, just to see what that tastes like, since I have an espresso machine at home. And then from there, I order a cappuccino. So I want to see what it tastes like so I can have something to compare it to and kind of dial in my setup. But I do cappuccino every day. And then if I'm feeling frisky, I'll do a pour over as well.
Well, I hope that you weren't feeling too frisky here. This is not that kind of show. To everybody listening, you can find all the links that we've talked about in today's episode, including the one to Apis Coffee in our show notes. You can also find it in our newsletter at roastwestcoast.com. We also have coffeepeoplepodcast.com. I always waffle between what to send people to, but it's the same thing.
Mm,
This show is a part of the Roast West Coast Coffee Network. You can find it on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. Reviews, follows, likes, all that stuff really helps. Please subscribe. Shout out to our presenting sponsor, Roastar Incorporated, the coffee packaging company helping small businesses tell their big story. Businesses like Apis Coffee.
yeah.
Fabian, a real pleasure. Thank you for being here on the show.
Oh man, Ryan, my pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time and just an opportunity to get out and talk to like-minded people.
That's it, everybody. Thank you for listening to us share the stories of coffee people. Please tip your baristas and be sure to drink good coffee. Fabian, I thought of this earlier and I really wanted to say it, but I feel like with your jujitsu experience, you
Mm.
should have some sort of promotion where if somebody pins you, they get a free coffee. I just feel like, but
Man,
it not at your your training facility, just like anywhere in
yeah.
the street. If they come up to you and pin you, they get a coffee somewhere.
We might have to make that happen. I'll send my location, right?
Yeah, what the phone apps that you can track like your partner with,
Yeah, yeah,
if they're on a trip or something like that, where people can find you,
yeah.
challenge you on the spot.
Yeah,
Um,
I'll set up a partner portal. I'll put it the pin challenge on my webpage, and you'll send me an inquiry, and I'll send you my
yep,
location. No,
I
I'll be
think
ready for you.
I think that's it.